Who's that? Commander Claw. Who's bad? Commander Claw.
Well. I am Commander Claw. Welcome to this video. This has been a highly anticipated video. Sorry for the delay for all the subscribers and people who commented who wanted this video. This video is if you want to find a different way to build Iron Man, and this is energy counters focused. Yes, energy counters are a type of counter players can get if they do certain requirements, right? And you can utilize energy counters to pay for abilities. So, let me explain the most important thing about energy counters. Okay, I want you to think energy counters are extra mana, pseudo extra mana, right? The reason why I say that because you'll see as you see cards in this video that do something with energy counters and they have an ability is really the same abilities throughout the Magic universe. However, you're just not paying mana from your mana pool to activate these abilities. You're using energy counters because you achieve these energy counters in a different way. Therefore, it leaves your mana pool open and available to cast more spells. That's what makes energy counters powerful. And especially in this color of blue and red, where you're not able to ramp as well or put more lands into play as effectively as green cards can. So having access to extra abilities and not tapping your mana pool makes energy counters a win-win with Iron Man Titan of Innovation. And if you don't know what he does, welcome to Iron Man the Marvel set. This set is going to be the Secret Lair is amazing. I haven't gotten my Iron Man yet. I'm still trying to find it whenever it gets here, shipment, yada yada yada. But for those who have made a proxy or actually have the card, I'm going to read Iron Man real quick because that is my favorite Marvel commander. So, on the right hand side, Iron Man Titan of Innovation. For 3, blue and a red, he's a 4/4 legendary artifact creature, human hero. Woo! He has flying and haste, and he has the ability Genius Industrialist. Whenever Iron Man attacks, create a treasure token. Then you may sacrifice a non creature artifact. If you do, search your library for an artifact card with mana value equal to 1 plus the sacrifice artifact's mana value. Put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. So if you don't know, this is the birthing pot effect. And if you're new to Magic, birthing pot effect probably means nothing to you because you probably never even played birthing pot in your life. Well, look at it like this. You are actively able to tutor the artifact in your deck and put it into play tapped. That's what you're able to do with Iron Man. So, with this being said, we have a commander that is going to be casted. He's going to fly in. He has haste already on him, and you're able to tutor whatever artifact that's in your deck, and you have a game plan. So, in the end, here, we are tutoring for all of our artifacts that have something to do with energy counters. And in the next slide, I'm going to explain how to win. So, how we're going to win with this deck is through extra combats, preferably through creatures. Okay, but one of the creatures we're going to have that has extra combat phases is Lightning Runner here. For 3, 2 red, a 2/2 human warrior that has double strike and haste. It says whenever Lightning Runner attacks, you may get 2 energy counters. Then you may pay a total of 2, 4, 6, 8 energy counters. If you pay, untap all creatures you control, and after this phase, there's an additional combat phase. So, 8 energy counters is a lot. It is a lot. However, you built the deck to get 8 energy counters and even more. This is that deck. Also, in the comments, remind me to give you the deck list for this because this creating these videos is a lot of work, and I had the deck list somewhere, and just time gets away from me. Okay? So we want to do extra combat phases here. What you're going to notice as I show you more cards with energy counters, they're usually into the battlefield abilities, right? Okay? So just note with Lightning Runner, every time you attack, you get 2. So if you have your first combat phase and you attack with it, you get 2 energy counters and you pay a total of 8 to get an additional combat phase. Lightning Runner attacks again, you get another 2. So essentially, you're really just paying 6 energy counters every additional time as Lightning Runner stays alive. Cool. Cool. Right? So next up, over here on the left, we have Unctus Grand Metatech for 1 and 2 blue, a 2/4 Phyrexian Vidakin legendary artifact creature. What's cool about this guy is you can tutor him because he's an artifact creature. Next up, he has other blue creatures you control have whenever this creature becomes tapped, draw a card, then discard a card. Other artifact creatures you control get +1/+1. The reason why I'm showing you this is because when you tap with, or when you attack with Iron Man, you tap to attack. So this is one way to use the rummage effect where you draw a card and discard a card, or looting effect. You draw a card and discard a card. And also he buffs up Iron Man, making him a 5/5 flyer with haste. Cool. Also, where this guy gets very creatively powerful is you have a blue Phyrexian mana. So either you pay 1 blue mana or 2 life. And it says until end of turn, target creature you control becomes a blue artifact in addition to its other colors and types. Activate only as a sorcery. Back to Unctus. I want to highlight his second ability. Other artifact creatures you control get +1/+1. Okay, if you haven't watched any of my videos on Iron Man, I've done like 3 videos on Iron Man, my favorite commander so far. I suggested Encroaching Mycosynth, which makes all permanents in your deck and in the graveyard artifacts. So, Lightning Runner is a regular creature, human warrior. If you have Encroaching Mycosynth, he becomes an artifact, making him have the buff up points from Unctus Grand Architect, and it becomes a 3/3. Do not disregard the power buffs of +1/+1. And this guy's already nasty. He's got double strike. So as you go through this commander guide and deck tech, you'll see other artifact creatures and creatures that you want to make into blue artifact creatures. Enjoy. So I just want you to remember Lightning Runner. It takes 8 mana to give you an additional combat phase. We're trying to have cards that give us more energy counters. Here we have Aetherworks Marvel for 4 mana, legendary artifact. Whenever a permanent you control is put into a graveyard, you get an energy counter. This is going to go crazy. It says pay 6 energy counters. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may cast a card from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any random order. So what is great about this energy counter generator is every time you sacrifice a treasure for mana, you get an energy counter. You create a treasure token every time you attack with Iron Man. And also in this deck tech, you're going to see treasure token generators. So every time you sack 3 treasures, you're going to get 3 energy counters if Aetherworks Marvel is on the battlefield. Why Iron Man is even better? Because you tutored this. And even if this card comes in tapped, its first ability, its triggered ability, still activates whenever a permanent you control is put into a graveyard. And that also includes lands, enchantments, creatures, uh, other artifacts, and other tokens. Now, I do want to talk about its activated ability. You tap in and pay 6 energy counters. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may cast a card from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any random order. I want to tell you how powerful that is. Just like I explained in the beginning, the introduction of the video, you are paying energy counters that's not in your mana pool. That does not count towards your mana in your mana pool. So for you to cast a free card. This is letting you cast free cards. And you get to look at the top 6 cards of your library. You'd even tap your mana to cast a spell. What? And we're talking about no limitations on converted mana cost, mana restrictions, none of that. If it's a 9 CMC spell, all you did was pay 6 energy counters, and if it's in the top 6 cards, you get to cast it for free. And let's say you still have 9 mana on your battlefield. That just allows you to sequence more plays. More plays. This is a really good card for energy counters. Let's move on. Now, you're probably also wondering, I had to go back to it. You're probably also wondering how this is part of the win con. Well, casting free spells and looking at your top 6 cards, these are ways to get to your win con. That's why I put it in this section for how to win. And there's going to be times when you're playing Commander and you just need to see more cards. Get to a card or find a spell that you can put on the battlefield to give you an advantage or advance your board state. Aetherworks Marvel is this card. Next up, part of our win con here is Blaster Hulk. Just take a second and look at the artwork. That is super cool. It just reminds me of Iron Man's proton cannon. That's why I have it in here, honestly. Don't tell me it doesn't. Don't tell me it doesn't. If you never played Marvel vs. Capcom 2, I feel bad for you. But this Iron Man in the game reminds me of this card. Anyway, Blaster Hulk for 6 and 2 red is an 8/8 artifact creature, pirate. It says this spell costs 1 less to cast for each energy counter you've paid or lost this turn. So this goes great when you activate an ability that requires energy counters, right? So if you tap 6, for an energy counter, look at a card, whatever with Aetherworks Marvel, this guy only costs 2 red mana. He has haste also. And he also says whenever Blaster Hulk attacks, you get 2 energy counters. Then you may pay 8, just like the Lightning Runner. When you do, Blaster Hulk deals 8 damage divided as you choose among up to 8 targets. So we are going to burn our opponents here with Blaster Hulk with extra combat phases. Yes, 8 damage is a lot. Then also don't forget there's damage doublers and damage triplers that will be in this deck tech. So 8 turns into 16 or 8 turns into 24. We're just trying to burn our opponents with extra combats and win this game. So you win the game through extra combats and through burn effects, and I can't say Voltron Commander, but Voltron Commander that you'll see in this deck tech. But the main focus is to get to extra combats using energy counters. And like I said before, this is like a pseudo extra mana pool. And if you tap 8 to do, if you tap or you sacrifice 8 energy counters to activate this ability, you still have available mana to do other spells. That is game ending. So we're still here with win cons. You gotta love Filigree Racer for 4 mana, 3 and a red. It's a 5/5 artifact vehicle. Iron Man is going to be a good vehicle commander, also because you can tutor artifact vehicles. What do you know? Just what I'm trying to tell y'all is Iron Man is my favorite commander because artifacts do every ability in the game. You're able to have a commander that tutors any artifact, puts it into play tapped, and you got your game plan ready to go. There's not many commanders that do that. Maybe Captain Cisse. But we're talking about an Izzet commander, Iron Man. Anyway, back to Filigree Racer. It is a 5/5 artifact vehicle. It says when it enters the battlefield, you get 4 energy counters. When Filigree Racer attacks, you may pay 2 energy counters. When you do, target instant or sorcery card in your graveyard gains jumpstart until end of turn, crew 1. So let me describe what crew 1 is. You just need a creature that has at least power 1 and tap it to turn this artifact vehicle into a creature for that turn until end of turn. So what you're going to do, obviously on your turn, you're going to attack with it, turn into a creature, and you're going to swing with it. You're going to get 2 energy counters, and whatever card in your graveyard as an instant or sorcery that you want to reactivate, maybe it's a giant fireball or something, right? It has Jumpstart. So Jumpstart says you pay its mana cost and you discard a card and you get to play that spell again, whether it's an instant or sorcery. This is good because this is repeatable. If you have additional attack phases, extra combats, you get to do it more than once. And what's best about this again, energy counters don't utilize your mana pool. So if you attack with this and you pay the um actually you don't even pay it. You pay 2 energy counters, you still have available mana pool to cast any instant or sorcery card in your graveyard. It's a win-win. So with this segment right here, I'm trying to do something fun. It's just like if you ever watch Pokemon, where if you notice this is really the same background, they ask you to guess the Pokemon. I want you to guess the legendary creature or the legendary planeswalker once I give you the flavor text. And the flavor text says, now she is New Capenna's greatest hope. In the comment section below, guess which legendary creature or planeswalker it is. So, in the deck list, you will find spells that are burn spells, counter spells, all other type of spells, but they always ask you, or they will always tell you, you get energy counters. So, in this video, I just wanted to show you a few of them so you can be very familiar with them and see what I'm talking about here. So, first up, we have Harness Lightning on the left hand side here. For 1 and a red, it's an instant. It says choose target creature. You get 3 energy counters. Then you may pay any amount of energy counters. Harness Lightning deals that much damage to that creature. This is a great card because it is a burn spell, but it also gives you 3 energy counters, which you can pay for your extra combats with Lightning Runner or Filigree Racer. You see here? So in a way, it's like it's an energy generator. There's no other way. It's an energy generator, and it gives you the option of burning a creature or just getting energy counters. Next up, we have Aether Spike, a 1 and a blue, instant. Choose target spell. You get 2 energy counters. Then you may pay any amount of energy counters. Count that spell unless this controller pays 1 for each energy counter paid this way. So yeah, if you wanted to counter a spell, you could. But you're probably better off using this as an energy generator. So these cards combine for 4 mana, and you can get 5 energy counters, which essentially could pay for any almost any of those powerful win cons that require energy counters. You see what I'm saying here? So as you put this deck together, look at the spells that give you energy counters as just energy generators, or you might need to use them for their ability at the right time. Like, let's be honest. Harness Lightning might be a good card to get rid of a Blood Artist. Blood Artist is only a 1/1, and you still get 3 energy counters out of it, right? You use 1, kill Blood Artist, who's a 1/1, and you still got 2. That's still a win-win. So next up, we got Aether Theorist. I almost said Aether Terrorist. I almost did. I swear to God, I did. For 1 in a blue, it's a Vidalcan Rogue. It says when it ETBs, you get 3 energy counters. Tap it, pay energy counter, scry 1. It's a 1/3 body. Cool, right? Like these are. I just want to like show you, if you're putting this deck together, don't look at these cards for their ability. The ability is just bonuses, right? But these creatures are really good to get energy counters because you can blink the creatures or flicker the creatures. That means you can send them to exile and bring them back. That means they re-enter the battlefield and you get 3 energy counters. You're spending less mana blinking them, right? To get a total of like 6 mana if you do it one time. That's really good value, and that pays for any of the major win cons that requires a heavy amount of energy. What you call it? Energy counters. Next up, we have Aether Chaser for 1 and a red. It's a 2/1 human artificer. First strike. With ETBs, you get 2. When it attacks, you may pay 2 energy counters. If you do, create a 1/1 color servo artifact creature token. The creature tokens are going to be great for sacrificing to find other artifacts that have a 1 CMC that you might need. It might be a soul ring, right? It might be, geez, there's so many things in this deck. But just knowing that you can blink these creatures and get energy counters, you will always have access to energy counters. You should never really run out. Your opponents could target these guys, but that's kind of like wasting their efforts. And also, you can reanimate these guys too, um, because if you played Encroaching Mycosynth, they're artifacts, and if you have some type of artifact reanimation, they just ETB back into the battlefield once again. I'm telling you guys, in the Encroaching Mycosynth, I told you that is the number one card that you need to add in any Iron Man deck because it activates all the cards in your deck. Once your opponents start learning that card is going to get destroyed. Just know that. So we got more ways to generate energy counters. Dynavolt Tower over here on the left-hand side for 3 mana. It's an artifact. It says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you get 2 energy counters. You have the activated ability of tapping it and paying 5. Dynavolt Tower deals 3 damage to target creature or player. Cool. That's a nice little burn effect, right? You can get rid of creatures. You can hit opponents for 3 damage, and if you have a double damage doubler or damage tripler, that could be 6 or 9 damage. That could be very unwanted. So I will say you can get to what 5 mana pretty quickly. If you cast 3 instants or sorcery spells, that gives you 6 energy counters. So not only is this a way to use Dynavolt Tower's ability, it's also a way to add energy counters for your extra combat phases. That's what we're trying to do here, or use it for our win con scenarios. And yes, you will be playing instants and sorceries. Don't think you're not. You're not. Uh, in this deck build, I am. I lean. I like interaction. As you play more games of Commander, you will notice if you do not have interaction, players will run away, your opponents will run away with the game. You need to be able to control them. You need to be able to stop them temporarily to give yourself a turn. While you're doing that, you need to be rewarding yourself. You need to see a payoff, and Dynavolt Tower is that. This is almost like a mana rock, except for it's for energy counters. Moving on to mana rocks, we have Conversion Apparatus for 3 mana on the right hand side here. Artifact where it taps for colorless mana. Not the best here. But anyway, if you tap 3 mana and you tap Conversion Apparatus, you get 3 energy counters. So it's like a converter. Conversion Apparatus, converter, 2 energy counters. Ha 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 ha. You get it. Anyway, you tap it and pay 3 mana and add 3 mana any combinations of color. This is even more efficient because let's say you have that giant like burn spell, like Jaya's Emulating Inferno, where it costs 3 red mana, or Fiery Emancipation, where it costs 3 red mana and some other like colorless mana. But you need 3 red mana to cast this. This is one of your answers too, because hey, you just tap 3 mana and you got those 3 pips, and you can still tap 3 mana from your mana pool. Ooh. Okay, this is what I'm trying to tell you. When you're playing with this deck, energy counters are saving you mana. They're like pseudo mana pool, pseudo additional double mana. This conversion apparatus should really highlight energy counters, right? Because either you're able to get 3 energy counters to do whatever madness you want to do, or you're converting the energy counters into the specific mana costs, paying for either all of a spell or part of a spell. And I'm trying to tell y'all, when you play with Izzet, you have to be mathematically aware because that spell, that color scheme does not ramp well. So you don't have abundant of mana. So any of your sequencing plays or plays you're trying to put together, you got to count the mana, and your mana curve is going to be highly important, and your interaction pieces. So with that being said, gotta add conversion apparatus. You'll see it in the deck list. Moving on. If you're enjoying this deck tech so far, thank me by subscribing. I'm more than willing to create specific deck techs for certain things I might think of, or maybe you think of. You just got to let me know in the comment section. I am busy, but I am trying to put it together, right? I really want to show you guys my creative, imaginative skill set and hopefully give you ideas too. And The community can share ideas. Anyway, these cards should be nicknamed power generators. We're going to start over here with the left. Gonti's Aether Heart for 6 mana legendary artifact. Yes, artifacts can be legendary. Note. It says whenever Gonti's Aether Heart or another artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you get 2 energy counters. So when you attack with Iron Man, you create a treasure token that is an artifact that counts as 2 energy counters. Cool. You pay a total of, let me see here, 3, 6, 8 mana, exile Gonti's Aether Heart, take an extra turn after this one. So extra turns are very powerful effects. I can also consider that a win. I can't say a win. I can't say really a win con, but you know, extra turn is an extra combat phase. Note, extra turn is includes an extra combat phase, but otherwise, this card is just a good another card to generate energy counters. And in case that win con scenario, you need that extra turn, you easily just pay 8 energy counters and you got an extra turn. Next up, we got Aether's Refinery for 6 mana, 4 and 2 red artifact. If you would get 1 or more energy counters, you get twice that many energy counters instead. So those little creatures that enter the battlefield and gives you 2 energy counters, you get 4 now. You see what I'm saying here? All these cards are giving you more energy counters, and energy counters are going to be more abundant than you probably first even like imagined. And oh, I did need to say this in the beginning. The new set Aetherdrift coming out is going to have, I'm predicting, it's going to have a lot of energy counters in that set. So that set is going to be great with this deck tech. Promise you. All right, back to Aether Refinery. If you tap it, you get 1 energy counter. Then you may pay 1 or more energy counters. If you do, create an XX black Aetherborn creature token where X is the amount of energy counters paid this way. This is good because you can generate a powerful creature, maybe an 8/8, maybe a 6/6, maybe a 4/4. Any power level that you need, either as a chunk blocker or a creature to win the game with, right? Like an 8/8 out of nowhere, that's gonna be a pain in the butt to deal with for your opponents. And don't forget, uh, even when you tap this, you get double the energy counters. So when you tap it for its ability, second ability, you get 2. So you're automatically making a 2/2 if you if you paid 2 energy counters. So you're not making anything not good. And also remember, uh, this is just goes with more synchronicity for Gonti's Aether whenever an artifact actually. Now, in the deck, there are going to be creatures that have abilities when you attack. First up, we're going to have Aurora Shifter for 2 mana, 1 and a blue. Creature Shapeshifter, 1/3 body. It says whenever Aurora Shifter deals combat damage to a player, you get that many energy counters. Obviously, it's a 1/3. And if you boost its power, you can create that many energy counters. That's what we want to do here. There are going to be equipments in this deck that boost the power and allow you to get through combat. So this is a great energy generator. Yes, energy generator on a creature. It also says at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may pay 2 energy counters. When you do, Aurora Shifter becomes a copy of another target creature you control, except it has this ability, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to your player, you get that many energy counters. So if you have a more powerful, devastating creature that either has flying or trample, literally Aurora Shifter for 2 mana at the beginning of combat can become a copy of it. So you have 2 of those creatures and its abilities. And except for the Aurora Shifter is able to generate energy counters. And I just want to highlight how powerful energy counters are because your opponents can't remove them. Once you get an energy counter, that's it. That's it. Your opponents cannot take them away. Can't. They can't. They can actually proliferate and give you an additional one. But who wants to do that? Anyway, moving on to Assaultron Dominator for 1 and a red. It's a 2/2 artifact creature robot. That means you can tutor him onto the battlefield. So when Assaultron Dominator enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy counters. Whenever an artifact creature you control attacks, you may pay 1 energy counter. If you do, put your choice of a +1/+1 first strike or trample counter on that creature. This is great for Iron Man because when you attack with him, you can just pay 1 energy counter. And guess what? You can give him trample along with his flying and haste, or just boost his power or boost Aurora Shift's power. So Assaultron Dominator is just giving you more diversity of keywords that you can add to your commanders. And I think I want to share more about keywords. Keywords are probably one of the key things that new players are not considering that important. And the more keywords, the better the card is. So if a creature has flying and haste, like Iron Man, that means as soon as you cast him, he can most likely do damage if an opponent doesn't have a flyer. Flyers are not that common. I promise you. They're not that common. Uh, Occasionally you'll catch a Bale Strix out there that's a 1/1 flying death touch. Or a person has just built a deck that's around flying creatures, like maybe Kali of the Vast, where they're playing with angels and demons. Those creature types do have flying, so you beware of that. But otherwise, you're going to swing confidently for damage unless they have some type of interaction to prevent that damage going through. So, Assaultron Dominator, a very auto include. So, we are going to the section where we're trying to bounce or flicker spells or permanents. Okay, so we can get more energy counters, just like I mentioned those creatures before. First up, we have Escape Protocol. For 1 and a blue, it's an enchantment. Whenever you cycle a card, you may pay 1 colorless mana. When you do, exile a target artifact or creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its control. Yes, there will be cards that have the cycling ability in this deck. So what is cycling? Cycling is where you pay whatever the cycling cost is and you get to draw a card. So essentially, when you don't need a card or you're looking for cards, or you want to activate a blink effect, bam, you cycle a card and pay 1, maybe a total of 3 mana. You get to draw a card, which is a bonus, and you get to flicker whatever artifact or creature you need to flicker, bring it back on the battlefield. This card is really good because let's say opponent tries to Sword of Plowshares or remove your commander. Hey, you know what? I got to answer because I have a cycling effect on a card in my hand. I draw a card and I pay the additional 1. I get to blink my commander and your targeted removal missed it. Bam. Sneaky nasty. Uh, the reason why I mentioned that is because there's so many things you can do in the game of Magic, especially with cards that are commons and uncommons. And if they're all put together somehow creatively, your opponents won't see these effects coming. It's very hard to stop abilities that are on cards in your hand. Activated abilities are very tough. Generally, you need a stifle to stop that. Moving on to Conjurer's Closet. For 5 mana, here's an artifact. At the beginning of your end step, you may exile target creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under your control. Yeah, I'm telling you right now, for all those creatures that are in the battlefield and get energy counters. Yes, that is here for that. But remember, the other artifacts that say whenever a creature or an artifact enters the battlefield, you get these energy counters. Uh, that I need to remind you that there's artifact creatures that count towards this. So it doesn't have to be an artifact, it's an artifact creature. Hey, just if you're enjoying this video, thank me by subscribing. That's all I ask. Next up, we got Displace. For 3 mana, it's an instant. 2 and a blue. It says exile up to 2 target creatures you control. Then return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control. This is a very efficient spell to blink your artifact creatures. Okay? For 3 mana, you get to blink 2. Uh, and just think about it. Every time any of those artifacts that say when an artifact enters the battlefield, you get energy counters or a creature, bam. You got 2 coming back to the battlefield. So we got to the auto include section here. I have Strionic Resonator for 2 mana. You tap 2 mana and you tap it. Copy target triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. The triggered ability always says words like when, whenever, or at. So This goes for our combat phases. Whenever blah 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 attacks, pay this blah 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 energy counters blah 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 blah. So this will let us to tap Strionic Resonator, copying that triggered ability, giving us extra attack phases along with our requirement costs. Okay, I've referenced all that for the Lightning Runner. This is really good for other triggered abilities, such as Iron Man's attack trigger, creating treasure tokens. If you tap two, you would create two treasure tokens. Okay? This goes for a lot of things. We want this on the battlefield to double up our effects and just create more value. It's super important, especially in this deck and Izzet colors, because you are on a timetable. And what I mean by a timetable, your opponents are not going to sit there and just watch you draw cards and play spells, because Izzet is a color scheme that's very powerful and can take a player's entire board away. It can deal a lot of damage at the same time. You can remove cards. It's crazy. So as you get to pilot this deck, you'll see double effects are very important just to streamline your commander. So this is my favorite auto include. I told y'all this from the beginning. Encroaching Mycosynth. It says non-land permanents you control are artifacts in addition to their other types. The same is true for permanent spells you control and non-land permanent cards you can own that aren't on the battlefield. So this is an auto include because you are able to tutor any card from your library. Even if it's an enchantment, it will be an enchantment artifact, which is going to segue perfect to the next card, because a lot of your damage doublers will be enchantments. And you want to get them onto the battlefield quickly, and not paying their mana costs saves you a lot of time and a lot of effort. And also, don't forget, since this deck is energy counter focused, you're able to abuse more abilities because you're paying energy counters instead of mana from your mana pool. So if you guess the legendary creature from the guess the flavor text, it is Giada Font of Hope, a 1 white 2/2 legendary creature angel. Read the card, enjoy it. Let me know if you like this segment or not, so I can continue it or discontinue it. Now, you have Encroaching Mycosynth. Obviously, you can tutor any artifact with uh, Iron Man. And Fire Emancipation is a damage tripler. For 3 and red, you get an enchantment that says if a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals triple that damage to that permanent or player instead. Remember, we are trying to end the game. We're trying to make players lose the game. So damage triplers and damage doublers are vital to your success here. Yes, and getting them on the battlefield works. And I also reference this card with the conversion apparatus because remember, if you sacrifice 3 energy counters, you get 3 mana of any one color. Perfect example, 3 reds right here. Bam, all you got to do is pay 3 mana from your mana pool. You really only pay 3 mana to cast Fire Emancipation. Nasty. So that is the benefit of having energy counters as a focus for your next commander, or actually Iron Man. So remember when I mentioned proliferating? Yes, Karn's Bastion is a vitally important card here. It's a land. It taps for colorless, and you tap 4 mana to proliferate. Choose any number of permanents and or players, then give each another counter of each kind already there. This is an awesome card because you can give yourself an additional energy counter. That's great. That's great. I got another trick for you. You might be new to Magic. If you're going against an opponent that is playing Infect or Toxic and players are getting poison counters, and let's say a player is at 9 poison counters, if you proliferate, you can give that player who has 9 poison counters their 10th poison counter, making them lose the game. Did you know that? Yes. Proliferate goes for any type of counter. You can give a creature an additional trample counter, you should say. But anyway, this is going to be more focused on energy counters for Iron Man. Thank you for making this far in the video for this deck tech with energy counter focus for Titan, Iron Man, Titan of Innovation. If you made it this far and you feel like you love this video, thank me by subscribing. I would love to hear your comments below. Anything else I can do to it. Make sure you write deck list in there so I can put the deck list in the description so I don't leave you guys hanging. Appreciate the love, y'all. On to the next.